board meeting as chairperson pro temp.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to make myself, Cara Woods, PUSD governing board member, to preside over this June 27th, 2023 governing board meeting as chairperson pro tem. Thank you. We'd like to welcome everyone.
So we do a vote.
Oh, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? And it passes. That's good? Perfect.
Good.
Okay.
You're in.
Okay, I'd like to welcome everyone here. Welcome. Thank you for coming. And we'll start this with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For all.
Okay, next up, we need to approve the agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
I make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Go ahead.
Second.
Thank you. It's been approved and seconded to approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Agenda passes. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes from the regular study and voting session meeting of May 2nd, 2023 as presented?
So moved.
So moved.
I second it.
Okay, we have a move and a second. So we have, what am I at? Voting?
Approval of minutes.
Yep.
Yep.
So voting for
All
the
those
minutes.
in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
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 Opposed? The approval of the minutes passes. We are at information items. Superintendent, do you have any current events?
No report tonight.
Whoa.
That's for you.
Well, that's short. Thank you.
Lions.
That was for me. Governing board members, anything
housekeeping
to
agenda.
present?
I do. I attended our summer session. Marty took me over to Lincoln, and I got to watch what they were doing. It's completed. When did it end?
It ended last Thursday.
Last Thursday. And so I asked to get the program that we were using and was glad to hear it was a free licensing program. So I downloaded it and took it over to the YMCA, and they're just starting up their summer literacy program. So I'm hoping the kids that were in our summer session will be in the Y, and I'm trying with Stan to maybe take it to the Boys and Girls Club, and hopefully we will be able to keep these kids that are falling through the cracks up to speed for when the school year begins. It's a real phonics-based program, and that's essential in my training. So,
What was the overall feel of the summer school? Did the presenters or the instructors feel like it was working this year?
Yeah, they feel pretty good about it every year. They do some pre-assessment and they look at their data, their assessment data, and then they try to target interventions in math and reading based on that. And I think what Linda's specifically talking about is our reading, we have interventionists there too, and she got to see the program that our reading interventionists are using. And fortunately, it's a free program, and you just have to do a little training, and then you can use it. So I love that we might be able to hit more kids with that program.
Which program?
Hegarty.
Oh, Haggerty.
Yeah.
And I went, after that, as a follow-up, I came in and met with Deb Prieto, and I'd like to offer that training to our volunteer force that she has, and I'm hoping to do that in July and August, because most teachers that I know don't want the interruptions. They're setting up their routines, and they're their everything, their groups, everything in August, so they don't want volunteers yet. But I'm going to keep hounding them to get them into the classrooms so they can pull those kids that are benchmarked and found to be really floundering. So I've got a busy summer.
Yeah, and we'll want to
Sounds
work
good.
closely with principals and teachers on that
Great.
to make sure we're not pulling them out during those crucial times and,
Right. Yeah.
figure it out.
Okay, Jane, anything?
Mine's kind of old news, but I went to the senior night for awards and scholarships back a couple days week before graduation. I was just overwhelmed at the number of seniors who got amazing scholarships and awards in the tens of thousands of dollars. And it was just good to walk around and see how many of our students got scholarships and awards to go on. And I was just very proud of all of them. It was very
Oh,
fun
that's
to be.
cool.
It was a great activity.
Very cool.
I
Okay.
should mention one thing, that Clark
Yes.
Tenney will be here, but he's at a very busy council meeting, he's just wrapping that up, but he will be here as soon as that's over.
Okay.
Just an
I
FYI.
just left there.
Okay, so we're moving on to our consent agenda. Can I get a motion? We move first, right? And then we discuss?
Can do it that
Motion
way.
first?
Yep.
Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
I'd like to pull 3 items off of it. When do I do that?
You can do that now.
Okay. I'd like to pull item number 5, number 7, and number 8. I've been trying to get information on these vendors and things. I asked for some MOUs, but I didn't get those a few months ago. And I just need to know more information before I approve that consent agenda.
So I'll just start in general. All of these, every June, we do, we call it a housekeeping consent agenda. It's the same items every year for probably 30 that I've seen. And and lots of them are updates of names, that type of thing. It's just the way that we do business. And then we have the board approve, change those names, that type of thing. Carr, would you like Brian then to explain those 3 items and answer questions on those? We can do that now.
That would be fine.
Yep.
And
Brian.
if you ever have any questions, contact me,
I'd be glad to, first chance I get.
which is great, because I have most of the answers to these things, and I have time to answer questions if you ask.
Okay.
So the first one, number 5, it has to do with procurement. We have procurement thresholds that we have to adhere to. Any company that we spend a penny through $9,999.99, we can do business with them freely. But once we hit 10,000, the next procurement threshold goes into effect from 10,000 to $99,999.99. To be good stewards of our taxpayers' money, we have to show that we're utilizing services that are of the best quality, but also the lowest cost. We have to get 3 quotes in order to do work with vendors over $10,000, and it's cumulative. So if we spend $5,000 the first semester, and then we hire a company to do a job the second semester, and that job would take them over $10,000, we would have to go out and get quotes. And we usually 99% of the time go with the lowest quoted service. If there's for some reason that the quality is of suspect, there is a way that we can deem that we are going to go to the second highest if it's close, but we've had issues with that lowest company before. Once we get to $100,000, we have to go to what's called a sealed bid, and it's an RFP. That's a request for proposal, or an IFB, that's an invitation for bid. The difference basically is an invitation for bid is for construction. We're constructing something, it's going to look as it is, and any construction company would be going through the same process to make it what it is. An RFP is for more services where variables would change, like our food service company that we did go out to bid. We have a rubric, that's an RFP because they serve different food, they have different pricing structures. And so number 5 on here allows for those that are listed to approve us to go to the bidding process if we needed to with procurement. And ultimately, whenever we do go to bid, that awarded company comes to the board for official approval after the bidding. So that's what number 5 is about.
A question about that. Where did these vendors get picked? You pick them?
Yes, that is our
Okay.
job.
So at what point did the board give you that power to do that instead of the board doing that?
When I was hired.
Okay. All right.
That's the job of the business office, is to look at the needs of the district, and as a collaborative process with administration, we say, this is something that we need, or we need to repaint the inside of Ruth Street Theater because we are going to have performances that our students are doing and or have it rented. That decision is made as an administrative team. And then we have a purchasing director within PUSD. Her name's Kathy Moody, and she will go to our local companies and bid it out with consultation to a facilities director, which that is his job, to have vendor relations, and we would bid it out, and we would go with the company that would be the one that gives us the best service for the best price. And
So
none of
every
that
year-
goes to
sorry.
the board unless it's over 100,000, and it goes to that competitive bidding process. The final act to the competitive bidding process is the governing board would need to vote on the award of, with an IFB, the lowest cost wins 100% of the time. With an RFP, the lowest cost does not always win. It's a rubric, and the lowest point total is the one that is awarded, and the governing board votes on that.
Okay, so you bring it to the board only after you've decided all these things? I mean, how do we get companies, are they always the same companies? I know the state has something to do with procurement businesses, right? Or is there a list like there is with the curriculum selections, or?
I'd say almost 90% of the services that we hire, if that, are you talking about stuff or services like we need plumbing fixed? We probably do
Maintenance?
about 6,000 purchase orders within a year. Are you talking about buying a calculator? Are you talking about painting a building? Are you talking about replacing the microphone that you're speaking in? What are you talking about when you come to companies? What type of
That I
procurement?
don't understand, all the different companies that have to do with maintenance and operation. And so it's hard when we get the budget then to just see these numbers and not see the process. As a new scoreboard member, that's something that I'm not familiar with. But as an existing, for 20 years being on HOA boards, we didn't farm that out, if you know what I mean. They brought us the bids, we determined, we normally did not take low bid. We always took middle of the road bid and then negotiated for it. So I'm learning how the school district works, but I also question things that maybe have been in place forever and maybe need to be refreshed.
I agree with you, but these are laws that are, probably you will not find a business that has laws and policies that are tighter and harder to work through than this.
Yeah.
And so to answer your question about
I
where
agree
we
with
get
that.
these companies, these are requests for bids. So we say, hey, we need a floor. And then the floor companies say, here's my bid. And then we choose the best one that we think is best for the district.
Okay.
So
Yeah, and
very based on strict procurement law.
Yeah.
That, again, you won't probably find in most other businesses in the country.
Because of the safety factor with the children, I guess.
I
just
just
the
think it's more
public
that
money.
we're stewards of the taxpayer money.
absolutely.
So-
Okay.
Yeah, and when we're talking about things that cost over $100,000, we do we don't do a lot of business on purchasing something that's over $100,000. And so this particular item that you're voting on gives the authority to administration, which is the appropriate level to engage in purchasing for items that are needed that would need to go to a request for proposal or an invitation for bid. Another item that you will be looking at is something called companies that are on a consortium, which helps expedite procurement and doesn't have to go to bid, but that's another one that you wanted to pull. So this is simply, if we're going to go to bid, I mean, and there's a process. I mean, you need to post it in the local newspaper. We post it on arizonapurchasing.org. For a bid, a bid usually takes almost maybe 2.5, 3 months to get through the process.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Okay, all three of them were about kind of the same thing, Linda, procurement. Do you have another specific question on?
No, I just, excuse me, like on number 8, how those soul search list businesses were picked.
All right.
I don't see a lot of, I question whatever health benefits, health equity is, and instructor curriculum, Highlands Center for Natural History, capturing kids' hearts training, and edge device security cameras. I know a little bit about that last one, but, and I need to have more information about that, but where do we get those?
All right, so
Sole source means no one else offers those, and that's why we have you approve those separately.
or it's to the detriment of the district to go through a process of vetting the products that we need. So procurement law also allows a governing board to take a company that the district has been using for a while and offers a unique product or something that we've been using for a while, and it would be to the detriment of the student or the organization to have to switch every other year because we're going through a bidding process. So the governing board has an opportunity to vote on what's are called sole source companies, and it falls once again into 2 different categories. They have a unique product that no one else, it's a niche, and it's hard to get bids when there's no one else that provides that type of product. Or I'll use an example. We use PowerSchool as our student information system, and we have for a long time. There are other companies that provide student information, but this product meets our needs. We've been using it. We've had so much training on it. And so instead of every single year having to bid out, because we pay probably about $90,000 in PowerSchool products, the board has the option to vote on it being a sole source and us bypass procurement law. We don't have to get quotes, or if it's over 100,000, we don't have to go to bid.
Okay, are any of these new?
No.
Okay, and tell me more about those other ones, the ones I was concerned about. I thought maybe that security camera would have been new.
Would you like me to go through each of them?
Well, I know a lot about Galileo. I don't know what Harris School Solutions is.
Harris School Solutions, that is our food nutrition point of sale system.
Yeah.
And so there are lots of point of sale systems. We've been using Harris because we're happy with the product and the price. And instead of having to go to quotes and possibly have a different one that we would have to retrain, it's coming to you as a sole source. Health equity has to specifically do with the 403 and 457 plans that we do offer to our employees. And so they receive checks from the district on behalf of the employees that want to put money aside, and it adds up. We probably give over 100,000 to have us have to go through the process would be detrimental to the organization. The Highland Center is a partnership with the Highland Center specifically for the schools that are providing the outdoor education. Granite was their targeted schooling last couple of years, and now it's Taylor Hicks. We specifically, through tax credit donations, pay them to have instructors come to the schools and provide outdoor education that supplement our the state standards, and it costs over $10,000 to do that. They raise and solicit the tax credits, and it's given to the district. We probably bring in about $50,000 for the Highland initiative, and we pay their instructors more than $10,000. They're a sole source because they're the only one that will provide the instruction that tailored to our district, and so that's the Highland Center. Power School is our student information system. Radio Wink is our transportation repeater wave time communicator, so that you can do communication between the buses and dispatch.
Okay.
ScoreVision is specifically for sports. It's a product that Missy Townsend has been using in shows a long time ago for software. The Flippin' Group is capturing kids' hearts. Our initiative that we have been, I think, on year 7 or 8. Most of the time we do get donations for that, but it's given to the district. We write the check to Flippin'. It's over $10,000. And instead of having to go through procurement quotes every single time for a different program, where 90% of our staff has been trained, it's on the sole source list. We Play software. That was actually for a product that Discovery Gardens decided to purchase. They're very large tables that are interactive. They're really cool. We decided to leave it on there just in case they need either an upgrade to the software or purchase more. They had a sole source letter. There isn't something, and that was 14 months ago that came into the board as a sole source, and we bought about 34,000 of these tables. In case they want to buy more, we thought it would be prudent to have it on our list proactively. And then finally, Volt. Volt is a software company that integrates with our existing cameras. It's being done at the high school currently. And what it does is it analyzes the images on our security cameras and looks for behavior that they deem as a security risk. Yeah. An example would be if a student is laying on the ground in the hallway for too long of a period of time, and all these parameters are programmable by the district. It will send an instant alert to the administrators that we may have a student that is in need of health assistance, and or will identify things that look like a weapon on campus and instantly send an alert. We have this at the high school, and it is over $10,000, and actually they're a sole source. There's no one who does this within the industry.
I wonder about that. Joe showed me that when we toured the high school, and he almost recruited me to sit there and watch the monitors. Almost. But
it's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool, but I think it needs to be known to many that it's in effect for a privacy kind of a thing. I know they can tell if the kids are vaping and things like that against the rules, but I worry about privacy and how the parents would feel about that.
They are using our existing cameras, and so it's not specifically installing cameras in places that haven't already been there. Oh. All it is analyzing the images for security purposes. And so with or without this company, those cameras are there for security measures, and it was part of our 2015 bond in which we did put cameras at all of our campuses.
I think it keeps our schools very safe. And with the school safety plan that I have been working on, I need to work more with that, and I think this would be ideal. When I was a jailer, we had to watch all the jail cells, so we had to, monitor them every 15 minutes. So
maybe we could get a little presentation on how that software is going to work when it's fully acting?
It is.
It is fully acting?
Yes.
Maybe we could get a little presentation to the board?
We can
About
ask
what it's
Adam
doing
Neely to
and-
come on over.
That'd be nice, yeah. Okay,
Cutting edge
Okay.
school safety.
Yeah.
As far as parent awareness, parents are not only aware of the cameras, they voted for them. So
pardon?
parents are not only aware of the security cameras, they voted to put them in
Okay,
place as part
they
of the
are
bond.
aware of it then.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
great.
you can see them on campus. They're not hidden.
They're not hidden.
And one of the first signs when you approach the front door is the security cameras in use. So
We found that keeps kids very honest with their behavior too on buses and things like that, so
not always, but
if
it
they're,
certainly
well,
can
not
help.
always, nothing's always.
Okay.
So,
Any other items that we would like to discuss?
no, those were the only three I wanted to pull. So, I don't know, do we need to pull them now, or do you want to do the,
Do you feel comfortable voting for them in a group, or do you want to vote on them separately?
I'm comfortable in the group.
Andy?
I believe that these are all things that typically are in our consent agenda. I don't have an issue with pulling any of them out for individual votes, but I also don't feel that there's a need to do that.
Okay, then I'll move to accept the consent agenda as given.
I second it.
Okay. I did have two just little tiny questions. One for Clark, who just got here. How many positions do we still need to fill, or are we doing good?
I'm so glad that you asked. That is fantastic. I believe that Mr. Neely has made his last offer today, and if the person accepts the offer, we are looking for 0 teachers at this point. We're looking for 1 designated sub at a building still, but I think they've got a lead on that. We still need 2 educational psychologists, so if you have a lot of educational psychologist friends who
Not in my
are
back pocket,
sitting
no.
around wondering
Now
what to
they
do,
found
starting.
all those to begin with.
But
Okay,
I-
fantastic.
We may be the only district of our size in the state of Arizona that is fully staffed for teachers as of
Oh,
hopefully
that is
tomorrow.
so cool.
Did we get a band?
That's the offer
the
that
one.
that is being made.
And then I just wanted to point out that we have gotten tons of donations this time.
Yeah.
Big donations, 10,000,
Yeah.
you know. So just thank you to all the organizations and people that help the district with money donations and things like that, so. And I saw some violins in there, and, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to add, because it's not on the list, because it came a half a day after it was posted. For our teacherage, one thing, I mean, everyone's just kind of rallying behind it. Kathy Moody has been kind of spearheading the behind the scenes, met with the Postmaster General, just about getting the mailbox unit there, which, believe it or not, costs quite a bit of money. And once they heard what it was, they called their Postmaster General, and they donated the whole mailbox
Oh, nice.
and installed it in the concrete, and it's just incredible. So that will be on next governing
next
board's
month's.
meeting, but just another example of our community coming around us.
Okay, thank you. So let's go ahead and vote on the consent agenda. Those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Opposed? The consent agenda passes as presented.
Thank you.
Okay, let me get to that page just a second. I'm new at this. Yeah, oh my goodness. Okay, so I need to have what is it called? Motion, thank you. Motion to recess the regular meeting and hold a public hearing to discuss the proposed budget for 2023-2024. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? So we are in public hearing to discuss the proposed budget, and we have one speaker. Ken? If you'd like to speak, you have 3 minutes.
I'll need about 30 seconds.
30
Okay.
seconds, gotcha.
Give me a minute.
We're flying through this.
All right, so I'm Ken Fiddick, 114 East Story Avenue in Prescott. And just because of the earlier discussion on consent agenda, item 5, procurement, I think it was under there, Brian was talking. And so my question is, I couldn't write fast enough to get the codes, but I heard I think I heard RFB.
RFP.
RFP? Okay. And what exactly does that refer to, since I'm not a school board member or active in the school?
I would give you,
RFP, what does that stand for?
We can't really have conversation. You can say your speak and
Okay, I'd like to
Brian
have
may
a
be able
response
to-
to that. What
Brian
is
may be able to-
RFP?
Brian
And
may
then
be able
there
to
was another
clarify.
one, I thought it was IFB.
Point of order.
okay. Yes, we'll, why don't you wait and talk to Brian right after, and he'll clarify those for you.
Okay, well, then you have my note there. I wanted to know what they meant and to make sure I got the break points on 10,000, 100,000, make sure I understood what that meant. Because I couldn't quite grasp it all at that.
Thanks,
That's it.
Ken.
See?
Okay, thank you, Ken.
Thank you.
I need a motion to reconvene into regular session.
I make the motion that we reconvene and assume a regular session.
Second.
Okay, so it's been motion and seconded to adjourn the public hearing and reconvene into a regular session. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, so we are in the study and voting session. Do we have any requests to speak?
No, we do not.
No. So our first thing is the proposed budget. What, do we get a motion first and then discuss?
Yeah, you can do that.
I can do that?
Yeah.
What should I do?
You can discuss or you can have a motion.
Let's discuss.
You want to discuss first? Let's have a motion first. Let's get a motion to consider approving the proposed budget for 2023, 2024 as presented.
I make a motion that we can,
Thank you.
go ahead, Andy, that's good, I'll second it.
Jane will
Sorry.
second it. So we have a motion to consider approving the proposed budget for 2023, 2024. Is there discussion? And I have one thing. On our estimated FTE certified employees, this year we have certified purchased service personnel, 2 of them. What does that mean?
So if someone becomes retirement eligible, so they get their 80 points and they can retire, they can do so. And they also, but once they retire and they are drawing a pension, they cannot for 1 year work for an organization that contributes to the Arizona State Retirement System. So they can be hired through a third party, which we use Educational Service Incorporated, ESI. And so these 2 individuals have retired. We have decided, and we always have the discretion, if they are employees we want to continue to employ, we can have them be hired by ESI, and then they work within the district to continue their job.
Is that only for 1 year?
It is
where
for
they're-
1 year.
1 year where they're
Correct.
banished from whatever, and then we can employ them
Then
again?
they can
Correct.
double dip.
Okay,
And they are double dipping within that first year. It's just that we pay ESI, ESI
Pays
pays the employee, and they're still collecting their pension.
okay. And my other question was, we usually keep the current employment, the kids, the number of kids.
Enrollment.
Enrollment, you started with an E, enrollment number, but our ADM went up for this next year, about 100.
About 40.
Oh, yeah, about, okay.
It's about 40.
Why did it, is that from enrollment, or is that from new numbers from the state?
So
Multipliers,
there's
sorry.
there's a couple of reasons for that. we are in one of the most complicated districts to do tax rates because 100% of our M&O and district additional assistance come from our taxpayers. So if we are wrong, we either are overtaxing if we estimate it high or undertaxing if our estimation is low. And we've talked about that.
Right.
And
Okay.
so my goal is to keep our tax rate about the same from one year to the next. In fact, we're within 400,000ths of a percent
Yes, I noticed that.
for this year's upcoming tax rate versus last year's tax rates. And so what happens is if we do get more students, in fact, we were up 170 ADM for this year, this previous year that we're just concluding. And because 100% of our money come from our tax base, what happens, we didn't collect enough money.
Oh, okay.
And we better have that in the treasurer's office from years that we possibly overestimated. COVID was a good year. We set the tax rate, 200 kids didn't show up like they didn't across the whole state of Arizona and the country. We collected that money, it sits at the treasurer's office and we can't touch it. The only time we can touch it is if we end up undertaxing one year and we need access to more money because our M&O budget fluctuates current time because we're under current year funding.
That extra money that stays in the
Treasurer's
treasurer's, what's that
office.
called again? The over something?
Treasury Bank.
It's just the treasurer's bank office that it's just,
Oh,
it's not,
okay.
there isn't a technical term.
Okay.
It just sits
I
there
thought we were
until we
trying
need.
to decrease that.
No, that's our
thinking of
carry
carry
forward.
over.
The budget
So
You're-
that's different than the
That's
carry.
totally different. So so what we do every year is for purposes of raises, for purposes of our proposed spending, when we do that philosophical budget vote in March, and you see that net being zero. So our revenue increases versus our increased expenditures, we want it to be net zero. That's based on flat enrollment. We're not going to say we're going to have more, we're not going to say we have less. For the budget purposes, I do have about, every year, about 35 to 40 ADM more than the previous year, as long as our assessed values go up and it keeps that rate the same, because it's better to a little bit over. Because if we don't have the money in the treasurer, if we have to take a line of credit and pay interest on money that should have been ours anyway. Other districts, the other 200-some districts within Arizona, they can only tax to a certain point, and that certain point is formulaic, and the rest of their money comes from the general fund.
Right.
So they can be wrong, and current year funding doesn't affect their tax rate like it does Prescott Unified or the Prescott taxpayers. So the tax rate is the same, and it allowed us to be about 38 ADM more than what it was last year. And it's a strategic move so that if we do grow, we're not going to have to take a line of credit at the treasurer's office because we don't have that extra money there.
Okay, thank you.
You're
Any other
welcome.
questions?
Okay. Yeah, I just, maybe more of a statement than a question, is just that noticing, what first popped out to me is, I know Brian says it's a small amount, and it is, but our primary tax rate has decreased this year, which, as different from the community college, we don't have the option of just raising taxes to gain revenue for our district. No. In addition to that, our override has finally tapped out. So, again, I want to thank Brian for his work on this and for keeping us on track. But we are at a point where we don't have those additional funds. We are so dependent on our tax base to fund everything. I think we just have to be appreciative of how well we've managed that over the years, and thanks to the taxpayers for continuing to be able to fund us at the level that we're at.
Okay.
Cara, could I make a quick comment in response to the question we had earlier about employees that we contract through ESI? I know there's some misconception in the public, there may be even misconception among some of us in the room about what double dipping means, and if that's a bad thing for the state, or a bad thing for the school district, or a bad thing for taxpayers, or whatnot. I'd like to give you just a brief scenario of how it typically works, if I could. Let's say we've got a science teacher at Prescott High School, Mrs. Smith, who's 62 years old, and she's been working for 30 years within the Arizona State Retirement System, ASRS, and decides she's finally going to take her pension. She can do that, and she can fade off into the sunset. That's great. Or she can do that and begin to take her pension, which is her money. She's not getting that. That's money that she has set aside for, how many years was she working? Did I say 32? 30.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Let's say she's working for 32 years. That's her money that she set aside, and the school district paid on her behalf and increased interest. That's her money that she is now drawing. That's not taxpayer money. And then if she wants to come back and work for PUSD, that's golden. That is fantastic for us. It's very hard for us to find science teachers, period. It's hard for us to find teachers, period. So if we get a science teacher or any kind of teacher who wants to come back and work for us, who's done poor work for us, we just put our arm around their shoulder and say, hey, Mrs. Smith, it's time to go, whatever, sailing on the Sea of Cortez, right? Or go hiking in the Sierras, or start
Good
gardening, or
analogy.
whatever it is. But if Mrs. Smith has been doing a terrific job for us, we want her back for sure. And the good news is for us, instead of her salary being what she started at, plus all of the raises that she's increased over the years, we start her at the rate that we start a new teacher to PUSD. So it costs the district far less money. It's actually that it reduces the burden on taxpayers, so to speak. It reduces the burden on our budget overall, and we get an experienced teacher in the process. In the meantime, ASRS doesn't miss out on anything. She had been contributing before. The district had been contributing to that before, because we pay an alternative rate, 9 and change percent instead of 12 and change percent, so that no one loses. There are people who, when they hear the term double dipping, they shake their head and they say, oh, that's a terrible thing. Clearly, those people don't understand what's happening. Mrs. Smith is getting the money that she set aside for herself for 32 years, and she's also continuing to help out students in our district and saving the district money in the process. The reason that we only allow someone to do that through ESI for a year is ESI does charge us a surcharge, but in almost all cases, it still comes in at less money for the district than it did before Mrs. Smith retired with us, because again, she's getting what a new teacher gets. And then she continues with us at that same rate, but as a direct employee of PUSD, because the law on ASRS allows for that. So it literally is win, win, win. I've heard people in the community talk about double dipping like it was a bad thing. They have no idea what they're talking about. And I just wanted to make that clear for anybody who watches this recording later on, or the 2 people who happen to be watching it live or whatnot. Does anybody have questions about that?
Yeah, well, yeah, and that's the problem that we have to get across to the public, is our numbers, like all last year we were told we have 4,015 kids. I was told that by other board members. I was told everything. Then we get on the Department of Education, the public gets on the Department of Education Arizona report card, and it says, last year you had 3,600 kids. Well, they see that, and it's not, but I know what you mean, Clark, but it's not transparent, because it's like, okay, we're going by one set of numbers. The public is seeing a whole other set of numbers.
The public sees ADM from last year, not enrollment from ever, certainly not from this year. So there are people with misconceptions. What people can do is they can come and ask questions. During board meetings is not the ideal time to do that, as we just saw, but they can always reach out to Mr. Moore, myself, Mr. Howard, Mrs. Reed, Mrs. Secor. We've got those answers, and we've tried to be proactive, and the most common questions that we get, we've got 9 different questions that are the answers to which are posted on the front page of our website. If people will take the time to look there, they'll probably find the answer to most of the questions that they have. But if they have a question that's deeper, absolutely. That's one of the things that we do, is we sit down with people and say, hey, you're a stakeholder here. We want to let you know what's going on. You have questions about why it says ADM last year was different than our actual enrollment this year? Let's talk about what that means.
And it just takes a question or a phone call. So you see the district saying, here is information. You look somewhere else, you see different information. you can either assume the district's not being transparent or not
Yes.
giving the right information, or you can educate yourself and find out the right answer. For example, a kindergarten classroom has 25 kids. How many is that number on the state website? Does it say 25?
No.
No, it says 12.5. There's an answer. You just have to ask.
Good. 160 preschoolers, the state says we have 12 ADM. That's a whole different thing. ADM and enrollment are two different things, and people sometimes conflate those. Same thing with test scores. People look and they don't really understand what the 4 categories of achievement mean, so they see kids that fell in the lower 2 categories, they use the word failing for that. That's absolutely not true. There's context for that. We have that on our website. We also have on our website that we fall firmly in the top tier of districts in the state as far as our student achievement. Does that mean we don't have work to do? Absolutely not. We have big work to do, and we're doing that work every day. But people who publicly say, oh yeah, half the kids in PUSD are failing, they're just flat wrong. They're misinterpreting data that's
But
there.
they don't trust us to have the right answers. And there has to be a way that we can not force it down their throat, but help them understand what numbers we're using and what numbers they're privy to, what they can find, which they depend on the Department of Education. That's our umbrella. You know, we're under that. And
I
so
can help
why
people who are
all of a
misinterpreting
sudden,
data if they'll talk
Pardon
with
me?
me. I can help people who misinterpret data if they'll talk with me.
okay, I'm hoping you'll be able to do that. I
Absolutely.
understand it now, but I didn't.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I still am not crystal clear on those things.
Sure.
It's like it's a moving target. So how do you know what's going on? You know, and that's what creates the doubt.
Yeah, those
Okay.
are great points. You're right.
So, yes, definitely something we need to work on, but let's get back to the budget. Any other questions on the budget?
Thank you.
I still have to make donuts in the morning, come on.
That's right, that's right. Let's move
Yeah, this is pretty important too, so.
The next time something will come in front of you is July 11th. There is timing outlined by the Auditor General. This proposed budget needs to be passed by July 5th, and then the adopted budget by July 18th. On July 11th, this will come in front of you again for another vote to officially adopt.
Okay, so we have, any other questions on the budget?
Did the legislature go sine die? Do we have to wait for that?
Neither one. They have not gone sine die, and we don't have to wait for that. The budget has been passed. And typically, it's a great question. In a typical year, that's the last thing they do. They say, see you guys next year. This
Yeah.
year, they passed the budget and said, hey, we want to work the governor over a little bit more for a month or two. So that's what they're doing.
That's what they're doing, okay. So it doesn't affect us then,
It may, but in terms of the budget, it won't.
okay.
Okay, so let's go ahead and vote on approving the proposed budget for 2023-2024 as presented. Those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? The proposed budget passes.
Thank you.
Next up is we are consider approving the list of student fees and extracurricular fees for the 2023-2024 school year as presented. Can I get a motion?
What is this?
I'll move that we approve the list of student fees and extracurricular fees for the 2023-24 school year as presented.
Can I get a second?
I second it.
Thank you. Any questions about the approved fees? Linda was asking what this was. This is fees that are charged students for extra, like athletics and things like that, science classes. I think AP classes have an extra little fee
Oh, that one.
that they charge. There's quite a few, but as far as I know, they haven't gone up. Is that correct, Brian?
Correct. In fact, there was little change from the previous year.
No changes from the previous year.
Why do we
And-
have to charge the kids for free public education?
That's a great question for our legislators, but Brian can talk more specifically about how that works.
And There are two different types of fees. There's extracurricular fees and there's also academic fees. At the high school, obviously the list is a lot longer. That was an attachment when Sarah posted it on Thursday. And so based on class, there is fees that are collected by the students for normal operation when it comes to the education that goes on at the high school. I would love to be in a situation where we're only talking extracurricular sport fees or field trip fee, but being 48th, 49th, or last funded within 51st, in order to operate and provide students the educations that they deserve, there is a fee that is associated with some high school classes. And in order to charge a student anything, the governing board at the beginning of the year does need a vote on it. And so anything that could be collected within the year is in front of you to be voted on.
So we could go without these disposable materials and without these extracurricular programs, or we can pass some of the a very small fraction of the cost along to parents. And we do have situations sometimes where parents say, gee, this is tough for us, we can't pay, and we work that out for them.
Absolutely.
In many cases we waive the fee, in other cases we reduce the fee based on their free and reduced lunch eligibility. So we never deny a student an opportunity to participate in a program, either core curricular or extracurricular, because of these fees.
At any level.
But there are some families like mine, even when I was only making a teacher's salary, I felt like, yeah, okay, well, it's going to cost $130 for my kid to go to school for the entire year. I think I can do that. Now that they're in college, I see what kind of value I was getting. It's costing me way, way more than $130 per kid per year.
So Sarah, can you scroll back up to where it was advanced placement? Where was that? $95. I think it was the very, yeah, there you go. Advanced placement exams, all AP classes, $95. So tell me more.
So the AP organization charges us that much. That's the fee that's set by them if a student wants to take that exam at the end of the year. And we're not like a certain charter school in town that calls our classes AP classes, but then many of the kids don't take it. We encourage every kid, yeah, you've gone through the curriculum, we've learned this together, take that U.S. history exam, take that AP calculus exam. And so if they take that and they score in a certain level, universities will recognize that for credit. So in the case of, I'll use my own family as an example again. My youngest daughter, I think, had 5 different AP classes that she had taken the test for. We'd paid $95 for each one of them. I thought, oh my gosh, this cost me $450. Well, she went off to a private university and got, I think, 24 credits for that. So it saved the $450 that my family paid for that, which would have been waived if we were indigent and couldn't have, saved my family thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. It was a great investment.
And the families recognize that, because I've had people come to me and say, I want my child in sports, and I agree with them. Mm-hmm. That's the one really great thing that public schools can offer that others can't. We should be really pleased they want to be in sports programs.
No
and
question.
Brian, who comes up with this list of who pays for what? And why can't we get this paid for those kids that want to be in it as an incentive?
The principals come up with it every year based upon the cost of a field trip to Arizona.
Well, yeah.
You know, we do rely on, we can use tax credits for those type of things, and we do have generous people. But once again, we are squeezing the balloon as best as we can, and we choose to pay here. It's the bulge is going to pop somewhere else. It's robbing Peter to pay Paul. So the best thing we can do is have our legislatures change the funding formula and have it so that our student base level of how much a student is worth is more, or how that is collected. And if that happened, we may not have to charge because it's not, almost all of our money goes to raises, and 90% of that is our certified staff.
But it's a question for all of Arizona. Every
Ev-
school district in Arizona.
Absolutely.
Operate this way if they want.
Every single one. We're not.
And,
Or they don't have them.
yeah,
Which is sad. Yeah.
You ask a great question. What if a student wants to play and they can't pay? We waive it.
absolutely.
What if they want to play and they can't pay all of it? We reduce it. We work with every single family individually who comes to us. We've never had a situation where a family gives us any kind of information. We don't look for tax returns. We typically we know our families pretty well,
You
and so we
can,
can work
yeah,
with them.
you
And they come to us and they say, hey, I want my kid to be part of the Lego Robotics Club, but we can't pay the $42 for that. We say, all right.
Okay, well, maybe we can find this in next year's budget a little bit better, because I'm against this across-the-board 4% stuff every year, and now we are up to where the state is. I heard that in the Auditor General's report.
Yep, our teachers
We're
are paid
up
just
there
at the
now,
average, just
and
above.
I think that's something maybe I'd like to see you working to do, is to give back to the kids that are really involved. They're not out there doing dope. They're not out there, not even caring about their school. They're involved in the school. Our two young ladies here that were just incredible young ladies. I'm for the underdog. I really am. And I know our teachers are working their fingers to the bones, and they're only maybe getting a couple $1,000s. Now, they've gotten a lot this year. They're way up there now where they haven't been before. But I think this 4% raise every single year, or 3% raise, or whatever, you guys are up there now. So let's redirect something back to the families.
So your suggestion, if a family has a difficult time paying, that we should
No.
waive the fee?
No, I am all for families who cannot and want to keep their child involved, that we work with them. I want to work with more. I want to give them more back so that they become our alumni that knows we were really in it to help.
Good.
Donate later on in life. That would be
I'm really
good.
glad to hear that, because that's exactly what we're doing. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Great.
We're on the same page there.
I think we're doing a great job with the extracurricular. I'm glad that they didn't increase any this year. So that's wonderful, because everything else is increasing.
Yeah,
This year.
good point.
So, if there's no other comments, can we vote on approving the list of student fees and extracurricular fees for the 2023-2024 school year as presented? Those in favor?
Aye.
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 Those opposed?
I'll abstain.
Linda abstains. The motion passes. We're on to our last voting topic. Consider approving Exhibit A, Governing Board Resolution Superintendent's Employment Agreement Performance Pay Plan as presented. Can I get a motion, and then we'll discuss after?
I make a motion that we take a look at the superintendent's employment agreement performance pay plan as presented.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. So it has been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
I did have one thing I wanted to bring up.
I
Do you want to go first, Andy? That's fine.
Okay, Andy, go ahead.
Sure. I just want to point out that this is what our lawyer has written up based on our discussion of performance pay as a board. So this is the official document that is passed through the lawyer for the district.
Okay, thank you. Jane?
And my only comment was, and I've brought this up with a couple other people as well, when we start taking a look at the superintendent receiving 2% above the base salary for English, ELA, and for math and for sciences of 1%, I believe, Arizona is notorious for changing the tests on us. They are constantly reformatting, reintroducing a new test that no one has seen yet until it comes into your hands as a teacher. And I'm just I think we should keep in mind that that's a possibility that suddenly the test is going to get changed again, and I don't think it's realistic to expect all of us to be on board with the brand-new test format immediately, and we might not see that 2% or 1% gain if Arizona goes the way it has gone in the previous years. And in the amount of
Okay.
time I was teaching, I think we changed the test format. Iowa, Stanford's, Ames Web, Merit too, at least 7 times.
Yeah, so we'll definitely
So I
take
don't know
that
how
into
we're going
consideration as a
to deal
board.
with that. I think we have to take it into
So I
consideration.
think it says in here, so higher percentage proficiency threshold statewide.
It's in B, C, and D.
I
of
wanted
Part
to
3,
say that
right.
it was, still, the board could still modify it. I'm not sure if it says that in there.
I'm not sure that it does
Does
say
it say
that
it
for
in
the
there?
221.
I do know that the state tries. The state says that they try, even though they changed the test to make the passing grade very similar. So the only thing we can try,
It says you'll meet no later than May 15th to annually discuss what changes, if any, may be made to the method of performance assessment. So there is that
Okay.
Okay, so
flexibility
there's
for
that
you
little
to
bit there.
have that
Okay.
discussion, should that concern
should it?
arise.
And it might very
so-
well not. Let's
Right.
hope that it doesn't.
Okay,
Let's hope not.
yeah.
Because they might have actually finally
Yeah.
landed on the test that's going to stay with us for a while.
So I have one other comment, and Marty, maybe you can, or Kelsey, you can help me. Is there, like, one grade for the entire district, like, of how many people were proficient? Or proficient in, I mean, is there just one number, or are we looking at different grade levels? Is there a comprehensive number that we can be looking at? I mean, we're thinking that there is, but is there actually on the,
Right, how are we going to calculate that
Yeah.
percentage?
yes. So is there an overall district, or are we taking like, second grade was up 2 points, third grade was down 5 points,
Yeah.
fourth grade was up 7
report card
points, and
So you
then,
could do an average by grade level, or you could do an average per student, which might be
There's an
hard.
aggregate score we get from the state.
Yeah.
The ELA.
You
from
get that
For the district.
for
All
the,
grade levels?
on
for
Arizona
all the grade
report
levels.
card.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you're
name
thinking
reports
that it's
that
called the
basically.
aggregate grade, aggregate score?
Renee
the-
reports
Does-
that to
does
us. I
she-
think she gets it from
Does
the
it
state.
come from the
I don't
state,
know if
or
she-
does she do it?
That's a great question. I don't know if she calculates it on her own based on,
Right.
Here's
Okay,
52%,
so that,
here's
that's my only
82%.
concern. I'd kind of like to have somebody like write it down and let us
Like
discuss it.
how it's calculated.
Like how it's calculated, yeah.
Right.
And just, and make sure that we're always doing
Yeah,
it the
we
same.
need to,
So that,
Same
there's
thing.
nobody
Right,
out there
right.
going, well, that's statistics and you can fudge statistics any way you want to, I'm a math person and you can fudge the statistics any way you want to. So
Absolutely.
maybe there's a process that we could write down and say that we're going to do this every year. Would that be, yes, Andy?
I think that's something that I would like to see as we put together this transition special meeting with Clark. One of the things specifically that I'd like to look at is the evaluation method that we use and the
Yes.
instrument that we use. So I think we should edit that at that point under this item, Roman numeral 4, so that we have that ability to say maybe the aggregate hasn't changed much, but we see this improvement in this area, we see this improvement in this grade level, and that's worth, a certain amount that we can decide as a board to award a certain amount because the improvement was there, and still say we want to see improvement in this other area as well. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but I'm hoping that as we have this transition meeting next month or in September, that we're able to come up with those types of things in our evaluation process.
Okay. So
I
definitely
agree.
something we should put on the agenda for that meeting.
I think she's definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I think we are all in agreement on that.
just a minute,
Uh-huh.
okay?
I don't know.
You said that it was through our attorney, 8.5%? That's what they're asking for that?
No, ma'am. You agreed to that verbally in our contract negotiations, and the wording was worked out by the attorney on your behalf.
Okay. It doesn't affect your base salary, but that's your end of the year bonus.
If I meet the performance goals as agreed to by the board.
Okay. So what if, this is what we're going to talk about then. What if science only comes up a half? Okay. And they need to come up one, then we have that latitude to say.
Yeah, it's definitely something we need to discuss.
And I think we're putting the horse before the cart when we don't have the evaluation. I didn't do the evaluation on Joe, but I looked at his goals. We haven't had your goal meeting yet, and it's pretty much a social kind of a how's your sense of humor kind of thing. And I thought, this is really insufficient for determining.
So I think
You know.
that's what Andy was just talking about, that he wanted to review that.
Right.
Yeah,
That
this
would be a
is,
previous board's work that they felt was sufficient, and they put in policy.
Right.
So that stands right now, and sounds like you guys have some great ideas to change it. And
Yeah,
I would
so-
recommend it.
Definitely, that will be put on the agenda. Also, we'll do the superintendent evaluation and finding out how we're gonna do this new thing on scores. And that sounds fantastic. Sarah, make a note. Agenda, thank you. So,
Somebody write that down.
Hey, Sarah.
any other questions on
write it
this, the agreement performance plan, pay as presented? I am excited that we're linking something to, I know a lot of teachers don't like the scores on the tests, but I think that there's something that we're linking that, people can, that is concrete. So I think it's going to be well accepted. We just have to get the little things worked out. So we have a motion and a second. Was there any other discussion? We're good? So can we have a vote on considering approving Exhibit A, Governing Board Resolution, Superintendent's Employment Agreement, Performance Pay Plan as presented? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
no.
One nay. The motion passes. We are on information and discussion items. Brian, your summary budget
As presented.
as presented. Community comments shared with the board. I have one. I would really like to know if we know yet, when our test scores are coming back.
We have we do have preliminary test scores. Did we get ACT? We did. So right now, they're in the process of being vetted, so they give us the static file so that we can look through it and look for errors and students that have been withdrawn and all of that. So we got preliminary scores. I want,
They're embargoed.
they're embargoed right now, but I want to say we have another week or two to finish editing that static file. Remember too, our test coordinator is a 10-month employee, so she's not here. We do work to give her a few days in the summer. So let me follow up and ask her when she'll have a draft with those edits,
Okay.
with revisions. But we've started to get
But you
that data
started to
in.
get them in.
And one thing they do get us early is the move on when reading scores. That's third grade ELA. And we got those before the end of the year because potentially you have to retain a kiddo if they don't meet that MOER benchmark.
Okay. And are
So-
we actually retaining any children this year?
We are not. We had 4 that did not meet the benchmark, but it's because they're exempted because they're they have IEPs for special ed, they're EL students. So
Only 4.
we've never had to retain a student for Move On When Reading, because the ones that do not meet that benchmark are typically students with IEPs or EL.
Okay, anybody else have a community comment?
I just don't see that.
What?
I don't see it. I mean, parents are pulling their kids for whatever reasons. They know their kids aren't reading at grade level, and we promote them on, and then we have a great graduation rate. But, you know, we're not addressing the remediation issue, that kids are not, the test they give, if they give you a new test, it's the same standard-based test. They just jumble up the questions or rephrase them so they can't be cheated on.
Well, I can
But-
provide the data for you regarding
You're
Move
talking
On
about
When
this
Reading.
Or another
We don't,
I'm talking about education in general, public
oh, well,
education.
our students are meeting that benchmark. I don't know what you
Okay.
mean about parents are pulling our kids since our enrollment is up.
Yeah, I know.
But,
That's the disconnect. I'm not seeing it, and that's why I think I was elected to the board, is parents are questioning those things. And we're
They're-
looking at things through a whole different slant than what the parents know their children as, and homeschooling their kids, and I just don't feel that we're making the grade, but you do, so,
We're not basing it on
no.
feelings, we're basing it on data from the state. The
Okay.
state tells us this test score, children are eligible to move on. That test score, they are not, unless they're in a certain category, like Marty mentioned.
yeah,
English
on
language
the
learner.
state test scores, okay, I have in 21-22 school year, right? ELA scores were kids who were minimally proficient and partially proficient, 50% in grade 4.
That's not
Then
the
they're
s-
59% in grade 8.
But that's not the
And
same benchmark that they use to tell
But
us
we need
what.
the same benchmark
Well,
then.
I have to
Talk
do
with
what
the
the
state
state
about
tells
that,
me to do, so,
We're kind of getting off topic of what we
Yes.
told the public
Yeah,
we'd be
sure.
talking about this evening.
Well, we are on
All right,
the-
I give up tonight, but I'm not going to give up
Test scores.
bringing this up until we're all on the same page.
Okay, I would ask for a future agenda item, after you guys have done all the data and the this and that,
Good idea.
to look at it, and then more of a in-depth on how we're gonna go about filling in the gaps. I'm not a big fan of you guys saying, well, we're gonna get all the teachers to help us and we're all gonna do math every day. Maybe something a little bit more specific, like a program that they're gonna implement or something. Yeah, I would love to see that, what you guys have decided on how you're gonna fill in those. And maybe there aren't any gaps this year. Score.
There are gaps.
There's
we're
always
constantly
gaps.
working on it.
we're
Oh,
always
There was
working on it.
every
gaps
year.
10 years ago, there was
Yeah.
gaps 20 years ago.
Okay.
This might be something too where we want to involve more of a community type forum or some kind of a meeting where we actually talk about these misconceptions with data, because that seems to be a big one. It's how people look at different scores and what that means to them. You know, when somebody sees a 41, that might mean one thing to Clark, one thing to me, one thing to Linda, totally different. And I think we need to clear the air in that.
Yeah, and put it into context. Yep.
Okay, any other community comments that we had? Andy, you got any community comments from over wherever you are?
No, not from over here.
Oh, okay. Okay, our next meetings are Tuesday, July 11th, 5 PM here, and we have a special study and voting session on July 18th, 5 o'clock here. If anyone's interested, the science curriculum will be voted on the 18th, is that correct? The 18th, and it has been delayed because we wanted all board members present when we voted on
And our,
it.
And our superintendent, we wanted present too.
Oh, that was the problem. No, I don't. Okay, so, and our superintendent. So everyone here on that day, so that's why it's on the 18th. And